the time. I can't find the point where our two paths align. But you're the night sky, I'm trying to see your stars. But I've always feared the dark. Now I see brightly, I can feel your silence. You always feel so far when your stars have burnt out and your heart makes no sound. I'll find valid in your eyes. You'll always be my night sky. You'll always be my night sky.
Inside my thoughts, and when I start to think, oh, the tunnel closest starts to end up on the brink. I tried so hard, but all these scars, they cut so deep I bleed. I fell so fast from heaven, it's like someone clipped my wings. Now I'm falling, and I can't see the ground. Can we stop this gravity? It keeps bringing me down. I can't breathe and I don't wanna die. Can we stop this gravity? 'Cause I don't wanna say goodbye. I laid awake just begging to let go. I almost got to suicidal thoughts, but you stepped in. An angel sent from heaven showed me how to live again. Now I'm falling, and I can't see the ground. Can we stop this gravity? It keeps bringing me down. I can't breathe and I don't wanna die. Can we stop this gravity? 'Cause I don't wanna say goodbye.
Baby, wait, I know
Welcome into Hardcore Penn State Football. I'm Corey Listoki. We have a spring preview for you, Penn State football preview. Gonna just go through every single position. Gonna flesh it out as much as we want. We do not care. 2 commits to talk about as well. And we'll get into that in just a second. Hopefully everyone's doing all right. Before we start, I'm gonna unplug myself and plug my. Now I'm looking gray again. I'm looking vibrant.
You've died and resurrected.
Everyone can see my house.
It's very nice.
My little closet. There it goes.
There we go.
I don't know why it does that. It's just been when I unplug the cam and put the cam back in. It's fun. I don't know why it does that. Anyways, welcome in everyone on YouTube. If you're watching YouTube, feel free to say hi. We'll get the show started here and just say it. 1, 2, 3. Welcome into Hardcore Penn State Football. I'm Corey Listoki. With me, as always, the great Shawn Cory. How are you doing today, Shawn?
Howdy, howdy. It's been a pretty big week for the Nittany Lions, huh?
Yeah, I would say so. Penn State gets a new basketball coach. And Mr. Rhodes. Did you like the Colossus of Rhodes joke on Twitter, or did that go over people's heads?
I think I got it.
Other words, a Crispin is coming back to Penn State to be the assistant coach. So that's kind of cool too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What else are you referring to, Shawn?
From the way back.
Way back.
Well, we got 2 commits, I think. Yeah, I think anytime you get a new basketball coach or a head football coach, it's a big deal. And you're looking right now at the newest Board of Trustees voter person, elector. I don't know what I am, but I'll be voting in the next BOT election. So, and then spring practice is going on. The away game will be this coming month. So I'm looking forward to getting back down to State College. I know Corey just spent 3 years in State College.
Yeah, and you didn't visit me one time. I want everyone to know that.
I've been very busy, Corey.
I don't want to hear the excuses.
Well, if somebody was coming for Blue White Weekend, I would have seen you.
We got to pack. We got to get started on the whole packing thing. We got like a month to pack this stuff up. I am back in Alabama though.
You move in like July.
We leave Alabama in May 10th.
Oh, so where are you going for 2 months?
Yeah, that's a great question. Maddie and I are going to Scotland and Ireland for 2 weeks of that. So we need to find some interviews that we can do while I'm gone. Because I don't think I'll be able to send you all of the recording stuff and set you up and teach you how to do it and keep the live show going in a matter of a month.
Does this mean there'll be Guinnesses on the show?
There'll be a lot of Guinnesses at some point. I don't know if they're going to make it on the show. Speaking of that. And then, so that's 2 of the weeks. And then we will be I'll be bouncing back and forth between her hometown and State College for work. Kind of just doing whatever I want. So that's the plan and we might be able to move in a little bit earlier, but as of right now, we'll be moving into our place in State College in July. So I will be a resident of State College at that point.
Yeah, that's awesome. We're going to have somebody right there. And if anybody from Penn State Communications is listening, we'll take press credentials if you're willing to give them.
Yeah. I was thinking about how I could maybe manage to do that. But, I just drove back from Pennsylvania to Alabama, did the whole 14-hour drive in one shot with no other driver, which I usually have had
long
help.
drive.
My music something. My phone, I don't know if everyone else has this issue. My phone does not connect to certain chargers. Like my iPhone doesn't connect to certain, like it just doesn't work for some of them. Works for others, doesn't work for some. I don't know why. But middle of the drive, I decided to stop connecting to the one that I was using for the car. And so for the last 5 hours, all I had was radio. And that was not great. Not the best finish to the drive.
Damn. Yeah. I've done the drive from Scranton to about 30 minutes outside of Atlanta before. I've done that in a straight shot. Not alone, but I mean it is a haul. The state of Virginia, you don't realize how big it is until you drive through it. So so I assume you went through Virginia and then through Tennessee?
No, you can do that. You can take 81 all the way to Tennessee to Chattanooga and then go south from there, if you want. But we do not do that. We take a left turn there on 77 South, and then go through Charlotte. And and I actually hit Charlotte like at 3:00, so it wasn't 2:00 really. So it wasn't that bad. Then I hit Atlanta just after most of the rush hour. So I miss a lot of it, thankfully. But we've actually been doing it. Last couple times we leave at like 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon and drive through the night and hit Charlotte at 2 in the morning. You don't have any issue with traffic through Charlotte at 2 in the morning. But we have gone through Chattanooga one time and we're like, that is 81. There's just so much truck traffic. It's awful.
The Carolinas, in my opinion, is a better ride too.
Yeah. And you said Virginia's a long state. People don't understand how long of a state it is when you're driving on 81. I mean, it's half of the drive when you go from, when you think about it, it's literally, if you leave from central Pennsylvania to get to Alabama, I would say almost half of the drive is in Virginia, which is kind of crazy. You really don't think about it that way. Anyway, Shawn, so I'm back, but I'm back on my normal place. So I want to say this to everybody, because our YouTube has not been great. Our YouTube game has not been fantastic lately as far as the videos, as far as the live shows, not having much up there. Obviously, I literally got back last night, so I didn't have a lot of time to prepare for today's show. I wanted to get the content done first before making it the beautification of it. But now that I'm back, we can kind of get back into the swing of things. So got some of the drafts to upload to YouTube as well, and then we're gonna get back into the YouTube game, the Instagram game, the TikTok game. All that's kind of coming back here until I at least take my 2 weeks of sabbatical. But we have a lot to talk about, Shawn. We're gonna have 2 commits to discuss. I want to briefly. Let me just tell it this way, Shawn. I didn't tell you this, but I think we should just tell everybody this as we start this episode. For anyone listening, maybe this is the first time you've listened to us. My dog is come to say hi. I want this to kind of, if you hadn't listened to any Penn State football podcasts since, let's just say, the Rose Bowl, and you're like, okay, blue and white's right around the corner, maybe I should have an idea of what the heck's going on. I want this to be that episode for you guys. And so, Shawn, I want to just briefly touch on the coaching changes, and then kind of go into it from there and go position by position, kind of hear what we've heard from camp so far. If you've been listening every episode, some of it may be a smidgen, redundant, but there's going to be a lot that also isn't. And I think that's the best way to do it. And we'll kind of just go from there. Does that sound like a plan to you?
Sounds like a plan, Stan.
Excellent. Well, let's start with the 2 new commits since the last time we spoke. One for the 2024 class, one for the 2025 class. The 2024 class now up to 5 commits, 18th overall in the 24/7 sports rankings and the composite rankings. And the latest commit comes from tight end Luke Reynolds, who kind of a surprise pickup for Penn State. Again, 3-star tight ends, got offers from Cincinnati, a lot of Ivy League schools. Most notably to me, Shawn, has an offer from Stanford. And to me, that's like Stanford does not offer nearly as many scholarships as a lot of other places do. So if you're going to Stanford offer, that means usually you got some wits to you, and you must be good enough in their opinion that they want to throw you a scully. So that's my initial thoughts. I think he's a guy who could could creep up the board here late, but I think Penn State thinks they know something about that maybe other people don't know. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, James Franklin's kind of known for getting in on tight ends early before other people see them, especially from that neck of the woods. Pat Fryermuth is from Massachusetts. Reynolds is from Connecticut. So, that New England area, Penn State has historically recruited well. And another trait that he shares with a current tight end is he played a lot of quarterback in high school. So he's got the position versatility. And I really like what I see from him and his highlights. He's a powerful guy. I wonder how much that has to do with the competition he's playing versus his talent, but usually there's a combination of both. I think he's going to be a guy that's going to be tough to bring down, and you just wonder how he's going to develop into being a full-time college tight end. But yeah, I like this pickup, and I do think he could be a late riser, especially if he has a good senior year.
Yeah, just kind of came out of nowhere to me. So that's, I guess, the final thing I'll say about it. I don't think he'd really had even a scholarship offer for that long, I believe. I think it was kind of a more recent thing. Was going to just mention real quick, since this is kind of a recap, as I just spat something out of my mouth. You guys might have missed that.
Yeah, he just got an offer last week from us, actually.
Okay. I knew it was soon. I knew it was recent.
March 18th, yeah.
Didn't realize it was that recent, but knew it was recent-ish. I was going to mention 5 or 4 guys else to keep an eye on. Maybe not guys that are to the top of Penn State's list, or sorry, Penn State is top of their list, but probably guys that they have Penn State very high. Amelia Agard, excuse me, from Philly, corner. Defensive back Kaj Sanders from New Jersey. Wide receiver Keelan Adams from Virginia, and Kevin Haywood from Pennsylvania. I don't want to say those guys are like on commitment watch, because this is not that show. There's 2 other shows you can see that with. I'm not trying to say those are like the best of the best remaining for Penn State, but those are the guys that have visited a bunch, have some ties, have some pretty good built relationships that I think you should maybe be paying attention to.
Yeah, and of course Quentin Martin. He's recently been on campus, and from all accounts, the visit went well. And Amelia Agard, I believe he just locked in an official visit with Penn State for some time in this summer. So, yeah, there's a lot. It's really after spring ball. Guys start taking official visits now, usually around June. So, recruiting is really gonna go up a notch in the coming months, and you're going to start seeing how things shake out, and who's going where, and finalists and all that. Also, key thing to keep in mind is this is the second full recruiting cycle with NIL. So it feels like a lot of programs are still, if not every program, is still figuring NIL out, especially out of high school, especially how you allocate those funds to high school guys, and how much you give to certain guys, and how you spread that out. So that's going to be interesting to see, especially when it comes to our Nittany Lions here. And like a guy like Quentin Martin, like I could see Pitt going hard in the paint with NIL to keep him home. But so Penn State's going to have to match, and Ohio State's right there. So that's going to be an NIL battle to watch.
Yeah. Hey, Sean, go ahead and check your phone for me real quick. I shot you something. Yeah, Quentin Martin, of course. Pitt, Penn State, Ohio State is who it's going to come down to there. I think Penn State has to be able to snag just to prove it, right? Just to prove that they've made some progress with the name, image, and likeness. I was listening to Blue White Illustrated today on YouTube, and they were talking about how with some of the recruits down in the South, Penn State might be getting outbid for name, image, and likeness by 4 times the amount for some of those guys in the South, by some of those Southern schools. Just to kind of give you an idea, a lot of that conversation regarding basketball, NIL, football is better, but it's not really where it needs to be yet. And because of that, Penn State is probably going to get outbid. So that means they have to pretty much check all the other boxes. You got to check the playing time box. You got to check the facilities box. You got to check the coaching staff box. You got to check the NFL potential box, and then hope that your NIL is at least enough to get close to those other guys. So that's what I don't want to go deep into the recruiting, Shawn, on for the spring preview. So I think a lot of people here probably just want to talk some football. So let's move on to the 2025 guy, and that is defensive back Omari Gaines, 6'2", from Newark, New Jersey. I don't think 24/7 Sports had a ranking yet for them, for him, but this is a guy who continues to grow, and it was originally a corner. Now they're like corner safety, and Sean Fitz even said like this guy could maybe even be a linebacker when it's all said and done. Doesn't have a bunch of speed, Sean. That's something he's gonna have to. People are concerned about with. Be interesting to see kind of where that finishes at. And if that makes, that dictates where if he doesn't have speed, he's not going to play corner at Penn State. Penn State likes their speed, so that will be something to pay attention to. But what do you think about Mr. Omari Gaines?
Yeah, I think he's probably safety at the next level. Maybe he goes into being a linebacker because he's only 16, 17 years old. So yeah, I could see him maybe growing into that. I'm sure the staff usually they have them run before they see them. So I'm sure that they're very well aware of what the speed is, and what the what his real 40 time is and all that. Yeah, I do like that we're getting back in New Jersey. This is second commit. Name escapes me. That there is just a recent commit from New Jersey. So it's good that we're getting back in the New Jersey game. I think Penn State's better when they recruit New Jersey well, and that Philadelphia, which is pretty right across the river from New Jersey. So yeah. And by the way, Corey, you didn't answer my text in the group chat. Who was a commit that we had who didn't end up at Penn State but also went to St. Peter's Prep?
I missed that question.
Yeah, you might have been driving.
Yeah, I remember you kind of posting that question. We're talking about he didn't end up coming to Penn State.
No, he did not.
Can you give me the position?
Quarterback.
I feel like I should know this.
I was very disappointed when we lost this guy. Very, very, very disappointed.
I'm drawing all blanks on quarterback battles off the top of my head right now.
It was from a while ago. Brandon Wimbush.
Oh, forgot about him. Yeah, well, that was actually about a year ago when we talked. That was probably the last time I uttered Brandon Wimbush, because we talked about him when we talked to when with the interview with Tommy Stevens. Brandon Wimbush came up because that's kind of why they offered Tommy Stevens, was because Wimbush went to Notre Dame. So it all kind of comes full circle. Yeah, I was never gonna guess that one, because to me, like, that one happened, but it never felt like a quarterback battle, because it was just like, I know it was, but it just kind of was like, it wasn't, I guess, drawn out as much as it, or as excruciating as like the Justin Fields one, I guess. I feel like that tops the
Right.
cake now as far as the worst ones.
Yeah, because number one, Fields was better than Wimbush ended up being. Like, we had Trace, and Trace was a better college quarterback than Wimbush, so that kind of worked out. Um, and Fields was committed longer. So Wimbush, you see, it's Exhibit A why I hate Notre Dame, why I think their fans are a pack of phonies. Because everybody knows as soon as the Catholic school comes offering the Catholic school kid, Notre Dame is going to be shoved up their ass so far, and it's going to be really tough to compete with Notre Dame. And sure enough, and credit to Wimbush, he was a smart kid. He got a Stanford offer and everything. But it was always going to be an uphill battle to keep him, and it was. And thankfully, it ended up working out for Penn State, and it ended up working out for Brandon Wimbush too, I guess, because he was a starter at Notre Dame. So, yeah, as soon as I saw St. Peter's Prep, I was like, ooh, that's where Wimbush was from. And I had to double check, and sure enough,
And you had to talk a crap about Notre Dame because, of course, you did.
That's why it really, really disappointed me. And then he gave this isn't a 4-year decision. This is a 40-year decision spiel, and I'm like, oh my god, please kill me.
That's so funny.
I hate when they say stuff like that. Oh.
Oh my goodness, you cracked me up. We'll save the Yingling conversation for another time because I don't want to get you too fired up.
Could be a heated debate on here.
No, not really. No.
Are you a Yingling like moderate or?
Yeah, which I feel like not a lot of people are. I feel like a lot of people are like, every time I go to the bar, I have to have a Yingling. That's definitely not me. But I also don't think it's awful. But if I'm out and about, if I'm at a bar, I'm probably not going to get Yingling actually. Maybe depend when I was traveling, I hadn't seen it for a while. If they had it on tap, it's one thing. But if I'm living in Pennsylvania, I'm probably not getting Yingling. And honestly, probably not buying a bottle of it or a can of it. It's one thing if it's on draft, probably not getting a bottle. We'll save that for another day.
Right.
Let's talk coaching. Defensive line coach John Scott Jr. left to go to the NFL to take a job with the Detroit Lions. I want to make sure this is clear because I feel like a lot of people, it's going to get grayed out that graduate assistant Deion Barnes was then promoted to the defensive line coach. And I don't think that's really fair because he was actually already promoted to a coaching position analyst role. So he had already kind of graduated from the grad assistant role. And I think that's important to distinguish because Penn State wanted to keep him anyway. And it wasn't like, oh, you've been a GA for X amount of years. You can't do anything. This is all you can do. They were going to find a different way to do it and keep them. So, I think it's important to realize it wasn't like, oh, we have to do something with him, so let's just put him here now because it worked out. It was, we're going to put him here because we already had him as an analyst, and we specifically were trying to keep him in order for something like this to happen. So I want more credit to be given than just, oh, he was promoted. This was the way it happened, probably faster than James Franklin wanted it to, but it was strategic in the way they got this done.
Yeah, and I mean, they interviewed other people. So it's not like they just gave it to Deion right away. And you guys remember, I actually made the joke on Twitter that the Titanic gif of it's been 84 years since we had a defensive line coach. And it's because Franklin did his due diligence. He interviewed a bunch of different people, and they kept circling back to Deion Barnes. And that's credit to how Deion has recruited. That speaks to how respected he is within the program, both among the coaches and the players. And it speaks to how well he interviewed. And Franklin repeatedly said how well prepared he was in the interviews, and how well he interviewed. So, it's all credit to Deion Barnes that they had real competition for him, and it took a while. They did their due diligence, like I thought they should have, and they kept coming back to him. So if they thought he was the best person for the job, that's good enough for me.
Yeah, and the recruiting in the Philly area could pay dividends for Penn State. So that's something to keep an eye on moving forward. I mean, even John Scott Jr. did a lot of good things. Didn't have a bunch of splash recruits, really. Denied Dennis Sutton probably being the biggest one. But otherwise, especially internally, at the defensive tackle position, really nothing to be crazy about. Although I'm a Ty Blanding fan personally, but that's besides the point. I think well, honestly, I think Deion Barnes needs to get. There's some decent defensive tackle guys out there that would be a pretty decent splash for Penn State. So we'll keep an eye out there. Let's go to the wide receiver coach. Wide receiver coach Taylor Stubblefield was fired. He's at. Do you remember off the top of your head where he landed? Navy, Army.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
Where did Stubblefield end up?
Air Force.
Air Force.
You're naming all of them.
All the ones except for the right one. Some police sirens coming down the street. So he ends up there. Penn State goes and gets Virginia wide receivers coach Marcus Hagans, good friends with Anthony Poindexter. And Marcus Hagans has a lot of built-in relationships in the Virginia area, all over from Virginia all the way to Maryland. I mean, I think we almost got in trouble one time for saying the DMV, and they were mad. Someone was mad about that. Saying Virginia Beach, saying certain parts of Virginia Beach was included in the DMV. I don't think people like that.
Delaware, Maryland, Virginia.
I guess that does not count.
I know it's not near. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to try to say
DC, Maryland, Virginia.
Yeah, you're gonna get in trouble for that one too. Someone probably just yelled at their TV with that. No, like I'm not trying to say Winchester is part of the DMV or anything like that. But anyway, the point is he has a lot of built relationships across Virginia, and he has built relationships with the guys that Penn State was already going after in the 2024 class, which I think is going to help as well. We finally got to see him actually coach a little bit. And I mean, this is a big year for the receivers. And so there's a lot of pressure on Marcus Hagans. I think when we get to the positions, we're going to probably spend the most time on the wide receivers. But Shawn, I mean, thoughts real quick on Marcus Hagans.
Yeah. I mean, I know we've talked about him when he was hired, and I mean, I still feel pretty similar about him. I think we got him because we wanted to upgrade in recruiting. Not to say Stubbs wasn't a good recruiter, but I think the consensus was Hagans could kind of take us to the next level when it comes to recruiting, especially in that Virginia Beach area. I was pretty happy with the hire, and he's well respected all around Virginia. There were guys that didn't end up going to Maryland and didn't end up going to Virginia that had a lot of good things to say about him. And you have to remember, like, Virginia, it's not like recruiting at Penn State. And Penn State, it just offers you more than a school like Virginia. It has Virginia, for all intents and purposes, it's a basketball school now. Virginia football has been playing second fiddle in Virginia for quite a long time now. And it's hard to bring guys in, especially when you have Penn State in their backyard, and then North Carolina's to the south of them. And Mac Brown is no slouch on the recruiting trail. So Hagans now is at a place that he could really maximize his recruiting abilities. And I think it's a good match. I totally understood why Franklin made the change and why he decided to go with somebody like Marquise Hagans.
Yeah. It was going to take a lot for Marcus Hagans to walk away from Virginia. So that's, we'll see how that kind of goes. But, yeah, we'll talk receivers more in a second. I want to talk about them now, but we'll wait. Let's jump right into the positions. And I know, Shawn, do you remember what we decided we were going to do next year for the positions? Like last year, we did wing sauces, right? Do you remember what we thought we were going to do next year? It wasn't appetizers, was it?
No, I remember I said it. It wasn't even. I think I said it on here.
Yeah,
I
I think
just
so
kind of
too.
thought of it out of the clear blue sky on the fly. I don't remember, but I'm sure this mind of mine has things rolling around. It has a couple marbles rolling around up there, so I'll try to think.
Pizza toppings?
Might have been pizza toppings.
I feel like it might have been pizza toppings too.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're not going to do the pizza toppings for the spring preview. We'll save that for August. But which, man, it's not that far away now. We're going to be in April here now. And things start getting juicy here pretty much from here on out. That's why we're doing this preview. Let's talk special teams first, Shawn, because we don't give a lot of credit and love to special teams, so I think we should start there. And there's actually a lot of battles going on with special teams. It's pretty much every position is up for grabs, every single one of them. So I think it's important we start there. Let's start with kicker. Xander Zahadak comes back, left-footed, good power, maybe sometimes not as accurate as they want him to be, redshirt sophomore. And then they bring in Alex Felkins from Columbia, who's a senior. James Franklin went out of his way to say there is no leader yet. Are you concerned? I know it's March 29th, but are you concerned, Shawn?
Yes. You know me and kickers. I do not like college kickers in general, and not personally, just as a position. Generally, I do not trust them. It's kind of like for anybody who watches Mandalorian, he does not like droids. That's how I feel about college kickers. Just can't trust them. And in all seriousness, it's a position we got to figure out by this time, by now, and the fall. And Falcons comes in. He had a pretty accomplished career. So that's a good thing. And Sadak was the number one kicker in the country out of high school. So you would think out of those two, we'd be able to find a kicker, and hopefully we will. I think, probably a lot of it comes down to consistency, as it always does with college kickers, and just being able to do the same thing over and over again. So, yeah, I think it's fair to say I'm concerned about it.
Yeah, and I just, we were big Xander Zahadak followers, supporters during summer camp, hoping that he would take the role from Jake Pinniger. And Jake Pinniger did, I guess, better than we thought he was going to do. But does make you wonder if he wasn't able to take the job then. Does there some consistency problems there too? Also, we haven't had a left-footed kicker. Was Kevin Kelly left-footed?
Yes.
I think he's the last one. Oh, Farah wasn't, was he?
Yeah, it was. I was going to say, was Farah left-footed?
I think Farah might have been, now that I think about it.
Yeah, I think he was.
So never mind. I guess Farah is still kind of a long time ago, but that's still 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Anyway, I love how we thought of Farah pretty much right away. Speaking of punters or kicker punters, Alex Pachetta, redshirt freshman now, and we'll be battling with punter Riley Thompson, who transferred from FAU, and we have figured out 100% for sure this is his last year of eligibility. He's from Australia originally. Right. This is his last year of eligibility. Crikey. Franklin said it is hard to judge who's doing well inside Haluba because they must be hitting the top of the ceiling. So that guess I'll have to wait until, I'm guessing, hang time. See, this isn't why you have to read into things. What that basically tells me is that they really care about hang time on punts, and they can't get a good judge of that when you can't reach your apex. Shawn, you don't buy it?
Did you just find that? I read that he said that. Did you find the comment a little odd? Like, why not just go outside then? Like, it's not like you have a practice field like 10 yards away. You could just put the punters outside if you want. Like, they don't need to be there for, I don't know, whatever everybody else is doing. Am I wrong?
You bring up a great point, Shawn. I'm not here to argue that.
Yeah, like, it's just an odd thing to say.
You could argue all specials should be outside no matter what, because then they get used to those conditions. But I don't know if you bother doing that in March 29th in the snow. You don't want someone to get sick. I don't know. Shawn.
Yeah, because there's never any snow in November in State College.
I'm just saying. I don't know. Maybe this is more about the form and making sure you have all your fundamentals right, and you don't have.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe. Yeah, that there might be a perfectly good reason for it. I just find it a little strange. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I love that you came up with that. I think that's a fair point. I like that. Anyway, he can't judge it for whatever reason or another. Long snapper. Penn State's replacing the best long snapper in the country, in Chris Stahl, who's at his pro day, which we didn't even talk about pro day, but Sean Clifford ran a 4.54. That's all you need to know. That's all you need to know. That's it. I think Joey Porter Jr. broad jumped like almost 11 feet, which I just don't understand how that's humanly possible. We posed that question on Twitter.
And Joey didn't run.
Could you be able to run full speed and jump 11 feet, Sean?
No. He didn't run his 40.
No, I'm saying could you? He broad jumped 10 feet and 11 inches, I think.
Could I?
Could you running start jump 11 feet?
No. I don't think I could run and jump 3 feet.
I think someone said on record, the record for long jump is like 30-something feet. Can you imagine that? 10 yards?
Like from the 3-point line or beyond.
Yeah.
Damn.
So, anyway, maybe we should try to do that. See how far you can should just run you through a pro day.
I'll pass out. Maybe we could get Donnie Collins in on it. He works right across the alley from me.
We'll have to do it inside because we don't want you guys to get sick in the cold weather.
That's right. We can't handle it.
Tyler Duzansky is the lead there at long snapper. I'm pretty sure people that listen to us, which by the way, our numbers continue to just stay, just slowly build, which just means we're gaining respectable viewers and listeners. People are staying because of my pronunciation game. I'm pretty sure at this point.
I noticed you said, how do you say Australia?
Australia?
Australia. I love that.
How do you say it?
Australia.
What do I say?
Australia.
That sounded the same to me.
I think I just put more emphasis on the U.
Oh, maybe. I mean, I have a
you
very
live there,
awful.
Though.
I've lived everywhere. Which is the issue. I think I just blend everything together. I probably have a little bit of a. I don't want to say I have a southern accent or anything, but I've definitely picked up words since I've been down here. And
you sound pretty similar to how you did in college, though.
Yeah. I don't. Maybe I shouldn't say I sound like I don't have an accent, but I pick up vocabulary from different places, and so it's just a hodgepodge of words, and they all kind of like try to come together at the same time. It doesn't usually work out very well. But Duzansky, Franklin went out and straight up and said that he feels comfortable, feels good there. So to me, that's like as much of a. If it wasn't for how we talked about the wide receivers in a second, this is as much of a confirmation that you're the starter as you can get, which we'll talk receivers in a second, but Tyler D should be feeling pretty good right now. Kickoff specialist Gabe Owusu has the lead, and I didn't get anything additional on that. They don't have Jake Pinniger to bail them out in kickoff specialist. I honestly didn't think Gabe did that bad last year. I don't really know why they went to Jake Pinniger, but again, what do I know?
Yeah, I think Franklin's kind of anal about what he wants from the kickoff guys, but I thought Owusu was fine last year too.
Yeah, me too. But again, what do we know?
Not much. We fake it till we make it.
I just had a funny tweet, but I don't know if you saw it, but Emilio Agard tweeted, "Can't wait to go to college and see everyone as surprised of how good I am." And I quote tweeted that, and I said us about drinking beer, and then he deleted the tweet. So, but that was funny while it lasted. All right. Do you want to go offense or deep? Well, let's go offense first because you're all salivating about defense. So I think we hold defense off to the end.
All right. We'll do
I also think quarterback is much easier to talk, or quarterback offense in general is much easier to talk about because I was thinking about it. So correct me if I'm wrong here, but we have 6 returning starters on offense. I got running back. I got 1 wide receiver. I got 1 tight end. Maybe I didn't give tight end it. I don't think I give tight end it.
Straight.
Left tackle, left guard, right guard, and center. Or in right tackle. Right tackle, left tackle, left guard, right guard.
Right guard. Yeah, that's 6.
Receiver, running back. Yeah, 6.
Yep.
When people do the preseason magazines, they always come up with different numbers. Every place has a different number. And I'm curious how they come up with those because, like, we know our team really well. So, like, we know Penn State. Like, you could honestly argue that Theo Johnson and Tyler Warren have a good enough experience where you wouldn't necessarily say that's a starter. But I think Brendan Strange was by far the starter. But you could make the argument Keandre Lambert-Smith technically wasn't the starter if you want to say Tinsley and Parker Washington were, but then also you would have kind of had to forget that Parker Washington got hurt. So it's kind of arbitrary the way it all goes down, but I think we have the right number there, 6.
I'm good with it.
So we have 6 returning starters. Unfortunately, Shawn, well, maybe not unfortunately, I guess, but it's never, I guess, good knowing you don't know how good your quarterback is. And we'll start with quarterback. Drew Aller's coming in, obviously played a decent amount last year. Bo Prabula's behind him. Franklin's still preaching that this is an open competition. Anybody, can win this. Drew Aller has led in every single practice session. He's led every single rep. He's the one using his cadence for all the reps when they're doing simultaneous workouts. Drew Aller's going to be your starting quarterback. I mean, I'm not sold on it. I said this thing last week. I'm not sold on it, but Franklin did say, Bo Prabula, we're going to have to find basically a way to get him on the field. Like, he does bring something else to his game with his legs. I don't know if that means we're really going to see a Taysom Hill-like package. I keep going back to Taysom Hill. I don't think we're going to see a Will Levis package where he's just a battering ram. But I don't know. And again, Drew Aller has some legs to him. So, I guess I'll finish off by saying Franklin said that they do have a lot in common, but if they would make game plans, they would have to sort of change the game plans a little bit for one versus the other. So take that for what you will. Bo Prabula deserves a lot of credit for working his ass off and accepting the challenge and the competition. And the fact is, he's only one bad play away from being the starting quarterback. So I respect the guy. Theoretically, he has a chance to still be the starter in 2 years. But we'll see what happens. 2 years, a lot of things have happened since then. So we shall see.
Yeah. Like you said, Franklin says they're splitting reps. We have talked about that before. I believe Franklin, and I think they are. I think it's a little, it's a little misleading if, like, you think that, in my opinion, it might be misleading. If you think that means that there's a true competition going on, because Aller had so many reps last year, and I don't think Bo had much any with the starters. So in my mind, it's a good idea to make sure that Prabula gets enough reps. And I think James Franklin has probably learned from the Iowa Taquan Roberson experience. You better have your backup ready, because you don't really know when you're going to need him. I'm in the camp of I like one quarterback. I could see having two. I could see using 2 if your run game isn't reliable with your running backs for whatever reason. But I'm expecting Penn State to have a very good rushing attack, so I don't really know why we would play Bo Prabula unless we're worried about him transferring. And I am firmly opposed to just trying to keep someone happy and trying to shoehorn them into a game plan. If that's the reason for any kind of package with Bo Prabula, I am firmly against it. If he gives you another dimension, you really feel like you need him to win a game, it's a little different. Like, there have been examples of it over the years where it worked out that way, but I don't think I'd be too big on a Bo Prabula package, but that's just me.
We've talked about it before. If you need a Bo Prabula package, it probably means you're not able to run the ball the way you want to. And that just kind of I just don't see that happening with the way, theoretically, in a perfect world, Drew Aller will be able to threaten a defense vertically that will keep safeties out of the box, and then you have Kaytron Allen and Nick Singleton inside. I just don't see you needing him to do that, but who knows? Who knows? We didn't do this to talk about just quarterback, so let's move on to running back. Nick Singleton, kind of a quiet offseason in my opinion, Shawn. I mean, this guy took the stage, and maybe it's because Drew Aller is getting a lot of the attention, but if Drew Aller wasn't there, I mean, Nick Singleton would probably be getting Saquon Barkley attention right now, and he's just not. I mean, this to me, this is a very, and I don't mean it from the same level, but this to me is giving me Kerry Collins, Kajana Carter vibes to a certain degree. Like, yeah, Kajana Carter was amazing, but still people, not that Kajana Carter didn't get his, but people still talk a lot about Kerry Collins, and maybe to a certain degree, Nick Singleton's kind of coming under the radar here as we enter spring, which is just crazy. But, I mean, just kind of the truth to it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more shiny new toy, and Drew Aller is the shiny new toy. We already know Nick Singleton's awesome. So it just kind of becomes expected that this guy is going to be great, and it's because he had such a great first season. I think Nick Singleton is going to get better, though. Something I would like to see him improve on is maybe his pass catching ability. I think he could be extremely dangerous as a receiver. So I would like to see him add more of that into his game. I was really happy with the year he had last year because he faced some adversity, and it's kind of forgotten about. But in the middle of the year, he did kind of hit the freshman year wall, where it wasn't going for him. Like, it was really the month of October. He just didn't look the same as he did early in the year. And I think it was just him figuring things out. Like, the first off, the competition went up, so he wasn't able to bounce it outside like he had been earlier in the season. And I think it made him a more patient runner, and in that way, it made him a better runner. And we all remember the great Rose Bowl he had. So I think I'm looking for him to really step up, and he's a potential All-American if all things go well.
There was that clear game when he made you could tell he made the effort to not bounce things. I'll never forget when he did that. And you're like, okay, someone's been in his ear. So that was really cool to see, because sometimes that moment doesn't happen on the field, but we were able to see that. So that was really cool. In Blue White Illustrated's practice highlights, he did drop a fade route, or a wheel route, excuse me. And so I'm going to now think that Nick Singleton's not a perfect pass catcher now, because it's on the back of my mind, because I saw him drop one pass in the spring on March 28th, or whenever the highlights were from. Kaytron Allen is another guy. We talked a little bit about him maybe 2 weeks ago. A little bit beefier. And I mean that in a muscle standpoint. I think he actually looks better. He looks like put whatever vehicle you think is muscular but also mean, whether that's like a Challenger, whether that's some sort of truck, whether that's a Bronco, whatever you want to go with, Shawn. Do you have one on the top of your head? Do you have one you're thinking of?
Monster truck.
No, not a monster truck. Too big. I'm talking like.
Yeah, like a Dodge Charger.
You ever hear that Ford Ranger song or like that little like TikTok thing? I'll define that for you sometime. It's just this guy saying,
I'm
"Got a
not
Ford
big on the
Ranger."
I'm not really big on the TikTok.
Well,
Scene, so.
neither is the U.S. government apparently.
No, but the Chinese government is.
Dude, those hearings made me cry. How the jokes about connecting to the Wi-Fi and those things crack me up. Anyway,
the American government's just on Facebook and Twitter.
Yeah, nobody should be really on Facebook anymore. But we're on Facebook actually still.
We are indeed.
Which I never. Oh, I did get it to. Did I tell you that I got the name to switch over completely?
Yeah, you told me.
Okay, I didn't know if I ever mentioned that. We did get it switched over. Hardcore Penn State Football on Facebook. But whatever truck that is to you, whatever you picture when you think of Katron Allen, that's a good Twitter question. What truck do you, what vehicle, four-wheeled, two-axle vehicle do you think of when you think of Katron Allen? That's him. And if he just gets a little bit more wiggle, I think he's unstoppable. I'm very curious for both of those guys how their top-end speed improves. I think Singleton had a better top-end speed than Saquon Barkley did his freshman year. And so I'd be curious if he gets quicker. And does Katron Allen get to the point where he can run away from most people? I'm not saying he has to run away from everybody like Nick Singleton mostly can, but can he get to the point where no linebackers outrunning him? Most safeties are not running him. Maybe there's a cornerback that's quick, but can he take, because he had a bunch of like 12, 14-yard runs. Can he make those 25-yard runs? Can he make those 38-yard runs? That's probably the next step for Katron Allen. I thought both pass protected pretty well for freshmen, so obviously you can see some improvements there as well. But overall, pretty pleased with those guys. Shawn, really the question about the running back room is who is that third guy going to be? And is that going to be, Horvath? Is that who it is?
Yeah, there's him, and then there's Tank.
Good old Tank Big. I almost said Tank Bigsby.
Not that Tank.
That'd be sweet if they had Tank Bigsby. Why can't I think of his Tank?
Tank Smith.
Tank Smith. Thank you. Tank Smith, former high school teammates with Dante Sivas, who we'll get to in a second, by the way. And then Trey Potts, transfer from Minnesota, is in a transfer portal. He visited this past weekend. So that'd be kind of a huge addition. Don't know if that's really going to happen, but.
Yeah, I was kind of confused why Potts transferred. Like, why not just stay at Minnesota? Because I think he probably would have been in line to start. And if not, he would have just been the backup. But then he's going to be the backup between two of the better running backs in the country. So I didn't really get that. But he is from Pennsylvania, so that is something to look out for.
Yeah, do you remember where he was from?
I do not, but I do know he's from PA.
Yeah, I know he's from PA too, and I was like, man, someone said the high school. Maybe that was on Blue and White Illustrated. I don't remember what it was, but I was like, oh. Sean's going to look that up for us while we continue. But that's the biggest thing. Can they find a third guy?
Williamsport.
Williamsport, okay.
He was a millionaire. That's their high school's name.
Gee, I wonder if he played Little League.
That's the one thing I never got into.
No, me neither.
The Little League World Series.
They say it's better if you get to go there.
I never went.
No.
I never went.
I went up there when I was a kid. I went to the museum, and I got to run like my first to home the first time, and it was fun. I got a little baseball bat. It was a good trip. But I've never been there for a game.
It wasn't bad watching it when I was a kid. But then after I was done playing baseball myself, I was like, why am I going to sit here as a 28-year-old watching Little League World Series? No judgment if that's what people watch. I mean, lots of people watch it, but it just doesn't do anything for me.
No. At that point, too, I'm so ready for football.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
We don't have time here. Okay, we're doing our research. Yeah. We're breaking stuff down. We don't have time to watch 12-year-olds.
Yeah.
Just the only team that interests me, I don't know if you remember this couple like 5 years ago now, that one team from Hawaii that hit like 1,000 home runs. Like I'm not kidding you. They scored a stupid amount of runs, and most of them were home runs. They're just like Barry Bonds roided, just demolishing home run after home run. That was a fun team. I think I did watch. As every other pitch was a home run. So anyway, we're way off topic now. Yeah, running back. I mean, that's the biggest thing. Can you find that third guy? Because Kevon Lee is in the portal. He actually tweeted today that he's still in the portal, which I think that's kind of awkward when that happens. It's like that's like when you text a girl and then they don't respond, and then you have to send that double text. That's usually not a good sign.
Yeah.
But we don't know the current situation of Kevon Lee, but it does kind of come off like a double text vibe there.
I mean, I'd be all right with reuniting with them.
So you're okay breaking up with someone and getting back together, Shawn? Is that what you're saying?
If the ending wasn't toxic, and that's something we just don't know about.
Yeah. That was deep. All right, let's go to receivers, because I feel like this is what everyone wants to talk about right now.
Yes, Cory is salivating about the receivers.
Yeah, to a certain degree, because Franklin, we said this last week. We were like, wow, Franklin's kind of going out of his way. Is he just doing that to promote confidence, Keandre Lambert-Smith? Is he just – but then this week he goes on and says Keandre Lambert-Smith and Trey Wallace have separated themselves. To me, that's like – did someone kill James Franklin and is just like cut off his skin, and then a new person's inside his skin right now and working him like a puppet? Because he doesn't say stuff like that all the time. And to say in the spring, this is March 29th, people, and he is saying that two guys have separated themselves from the pack. And that's just surprising to me. Now, from an athletic perspective, it doesn't shock me, right? Keandre Lambert-Smith, we saw what he can do when he applies himself fully, right? When he is all there, he can even throw touchdown passes. He's got it all going for him. He can block well. He can separate himself on the deep routes. He can catch the stuff and make, have the speed to get away from people. He has all of that. So they want him to be a top Big Ten receiver, maybe even the country guy. I think he can do it. He did play some in the slot. He was practicing some in the slot, which I thought was kind of interesting. Get him a little mismatch there. I like Keandre Lambert-Smith in the slot. I'll get back to that in a second more, Shawn. But Trey Wallace, another guy, lots of athleticism. I love that catch he had against in the Michigan game. It was like one of the bright spots in that awful day. I like Trey Wallace. And again, another guy, I don't think he has necessarily disappointed yet. I don't think last year was bad for him. I think it could have been maybe more of what we were hoping to see. But I also think, Shawn, you and I had maybe higher expectations for Trey Wallace than a lot of other people did. Like you and I were kind of a dark horse pick. Trey Wallace is going to explode, and maybe he didn't explode, but I think he did good things given some. He had a couple drops that kind of stunk here and there. But maybe this is a year it sounds like he's already separated himself from the pack. So I guess, yeah, he's done it, Shawn.
Yeah. I mean, Lambert-Smith, if you guys have listened to the pod, if you listened during the season, I was on this guy could be a number one receiver train with him. Like, I really believed in what he could do if he just got more consistent and if he just, matured both on and maybe, I'm not privy to anything, maybe even off the field, like just having that confidence, just staying steady Eddie, not getting too high, not getting too low, and just staying steady in his head. And if he could do that, I always knew he could be a number one. And he's got that potential. Like, the speed is there, and the flair for he has that flair for the dramatics. He has the longest catch ever in Rose Bowl history. He could accelerate, and I do believe he could be a number one guy. And then as far as Wallace goes, yeah, I saw some things I liked with him last year. It did leave me wanting a little more, though, because he had some crazy catches, but then he dropped some that I really thought he should have had. The Northwestern game sticks out to me. Now, granted, it was in a monsoon, and granted, it was a tough catch, especially considering it was raining out. but I thought he should have had it. And then there are other catches that were pretty routine that he dropped. But he does have that crazy catchability, and there's a lot to like about him. And according to Franklin, he's having what sounds like an awesome spring, and I hope he could build off it. You want to get into the other guys too?
Yeah. We mentioned KLS maybe moving inside a little bit to the slot. In my opinion, that's because of these other two guys that I think you're going to want to highlight next, and that's Dante Cephas, who's coming in May from Kent State as of now, and Malik McClain, who's 6'4" wide receiver from Florida State, who just transferred in, who apparently has a decent amount of wheels as well as a superior height to everybody else. Those are the next two guys, in my opinion, Shawn. We don't know what Dante Cephas can do, but he was a number 1 at Kent State, so you think he could come here and do some good things. And then Malik McClain obviously can be a huge red zone threat, if nothing else. But those are the next two guys I go to, and that gives you some flexibility. That kind of lets you, in the same way they move Parker Washington around. I mean, if Keandre Lambert-Smith can be placed in the slot and is lined up with a safety, I mean, that is probably not exactly good news for the defense with Keandre Lambert-Smith lined up on a safety. So if you can provide those matchups, I mean, just Trey Wallace and Malik McClain on the outside and Keandre Lambert-Smith in the slot, that's a pretty lethal repertoire. I like the size because Drew Aller is going to throw the ball, and I think he's going to put the ball up there sometimes for his guys to come down to it. So I'm a big Trey Wallace, Malik McClain fan. Dante Cephas is not a small guy either as far as being a possession guy. So, yeah, those two guys, they got me excited, the two transfers, no doubt.
Yeah, like I said, Wallace has also shown an ability to go up and get it, and Malik McClain has that size. Like, he is that red zone threat that I think we've been blessed to
Goal
have
line fades, baby.
hopefully not, or limited. But we've had tight ends that you trust in the red zone for sure. But to have a guy with some speed, with some wheels, and is tall, we haven't had since Juwan Johnson. So I think McClain could kind of fit that bill and be that red zone threat. Cephas comes in the summer, so we'll see what he could do when he gets here. But yeah, moving Lambert-Smith inside, having him work from the slot, I think that's going to be something that you'd be crazy not to look into. I also want to highlight Omari Evans. Like Omari Evans, I feel like I've been beating the drum on for a while. Just that speed, like he's a burner, and he's good. And he had, I believe it was Drew Aller's first touchdown of his career, and it was to Omari Evans. And his route running impressed me early on, and this is his first time ever playing wide receiver. So if he could continue developing that, continue to be become more polished, I think he's going to be a real weapon for us this year. Yeah, and then another guy that I think you've seen a lot of people talk about, and he does again seem to have a rapport with Drew Aller, is Clifford the Younger. And if Liam, he seems to be that pass, be able to go across the middle, not afraid to take a hit. Yeah, I think a guy that could really move the chains. He's a Wes Welker, Julian Edelman / Adam Thielen type guy.
McConkey.
Yeah, McConkey. He reminds me a lot of McConkey too.
We're not going down that road again.
Yeah.
Anthony Ivy.
Seriously, look out for him.
Yeah, I think we joke a lot about him, but
yeah.
I think he seriously could be could be a little bit of a threat there. Who's the guy from the Raiders that played at Clemson?
He had the winning catch in the championship game. YouTube, help us out.
Yeah, if anyone's on YouTube watching. I do want to mention Anthony Ivy and Tyler Johnson too, because those guys, we don't really know anything yet about those guys. And so
Hunter Renfro.
yes, Hunter Renfro, thank you. I think Clifford's got a little Hunter Renfro in him, but we'll have to wait and see. I'm curious about Anthony Ivy and Tyler Johnson because I don't know anything. And
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of wide receivers there. And honestly, Carmelo Taylor, who probably shouldn't even be talking about him yet because he's not in the spring preview, but as a guy you should be kind of paying attention to because I like Carmelo Taylor a lot. So, real quick, to wrap up the receivers, obviously Marcus Higgins is there too. So, in my opinion, it's a clean slate. And those two guys have jumped out. That's great. But I do want to ask you, is it over for Malik Mega? I mean, as far as a wide receiver goes, I mean, I think he's a fantastic special teamist. But is the receiving aspect of his career over at Penn State?
Not necessarily. Franklin seems to be pretty certain about the top two guys, but beyond that, it seems to just be a hodgepodge of different guys. But I will say this is probably a make or break year for him. And I don't really know why it hasn't come together for Malik. Maybe they don't trust his route running ability. And maybe he's also trying to see what Marquise Higgins sees in him. And maybe him and Stubblefield didn't really see eye to eye. I don't know that, but maybe with fresh eyes on him, maybe you could see Mega make a push because he has the athletic ability. It's just putting it all together. And Christian Driver's there, and Caden Saunders. Saunders, highly touted recruit out of Ohio. They said that he had to get into playing shape last year. They didn't really like the way he came in. But as the year went on, they felt like he got in better and better shape, and the talent's there. So he might make a push for some early playing time. And Christian Driver's still getting over from corner.
Yes. There's just so many guys.
Yeah, this is a loaded room. Well, it's a lot of people. It's just a question of how good is the quality. But there's definitely the quantity.
Caden Saunders is a guy I keep forgetting about for some reason. I'll finish the episode today with, I asked on Twitter, I wanted some people, non-starters on offense and defense. And I'll read off some of the replies on Twitter again, at Hardcore PSUFB on Twitter. But hint, nudge, nudge, Saunders comes up quite a bit. Christian Driver also been working in the slot too, was something I wanted to bring up. Let's go to tight end. Theo Johnson, a little banged up. I had heard that it was related to the arm, shoulder, wrist, something. He was in a sling. So they don't think it's serious, but he was a little banged up. I don't think he was able to participate in all the winter workout stuff.
Was not a boot.
It was not. I don't think you wear boots on your arm. I hadn't heard. I think Tyler Warren. I think Franklin even said Tyler Warren was banged up. I don't know how severe it was either, but I don't think it was very much. But I really wanted to focus on Khalil Dinkins and Jerry Cross. Jerry Cross also got banged up last year during the season. Khalil Dinkins has apparently really. I think Khalil Dinkins had 3 or 4 shout-outs during the winter workout, so he did some good things there. But we've said this before, but again, for people that maybe are just tuning in for the first time since the Rose Bowl, Khalil Dinkins and Jerry Cross, this is now or never for them. This is a huge spring for them to show what they have because they've got a bunch of guys behind them that are going to keep pushing them with Andrew Rappelier and Schlaffer as well. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see kind of how that all transpires. I don't know if there's room for a Khalil Dinkins and Jerry Cross to blossom, but it's going to be an interesting spring for those. Those are, if you're going to the spring game and you want something to pay attention to, think tight end position is one that you could get really excited about, especially if Theo Johnson and Tyler Warren don't play very much. I mean, that is a competition you should be paying attention to, if not for necessarily this year, but for next year.
Yeah, and I mean, I got to be honest. I'm a little concerned with Theo that he might be injury prone. Like he's been banged up a few times now in his career, and worries me a little bit. I've always loved his ability. He's a guy that I think, if all things work out, I think he's going to play in the NFL. But his availability does concern me a tad. Tyler Warren, in my opinion, is the best blocker out of the group. So, he's gonna be right there with Theo. We use a lot of tight ends, as we know, so he's gonna be playing a lot. And yeah, I agree with you. The real competition right now is that third tight end spot. Dinkins is there. You know, small sample size, but every time I've seen Khalil Dinkins, I've liked what I've seen. So I think he starts off ahead of everybody else because Cross missed all last year. So it's essentially him and a bunch of new guys. Schlaffer is in there now. And Mega Barnwell is also there. How long is Mega Barnwell going to be a tight end? I really don't know. Maybe he finds his home there. Maybe he ends up at offensive tackle at some point. And Raplier is coming in the summer. So there's a lot of guys there, especially with Jerry Cross. So there's so Dinkins is going to have, when the summer comes, 4 guys challenging him for that third tight end spot. So that's going to be a competition that probably goes into the summer. But I think those winter workouts, I think there's some value in winning the player of the day. And what I mean by that is that means the coaches really think pretty highly of you. And if you put in the effort, if you're, staying true to those core values that Franklin always preaches, you're coming to work every day with consistency, they're going to give you the edge. And I would expect Khalil Dinkins to be the third tight end come fall.
Wow, just going out there and saying it. Khalil Dinkins also that touchdown grab against Ohio from Drew Aller. I'm going to disagree with you with the blocking. I think I would honestly give Theo Johnson the edge over Tyler Warren. I just think there's so many times Tyler Warren, I just think of the touchdown run that Nick Singleton had, short yardage situation. Hell, it might have been Katron Allen's. I think it was Katron Allen's, now I think about it. Where Tyler Warren just completely missed his block and didn't matter. Same thing, I think, in one of the touchdown runs against Indiana, where Tyler Warren just straight up missed his block on the edge. I'm not saying Theo Johnson hasn't missed his fair share of blocks, but I think right now, I think I would take Theo Johnson over. I think Tyler Warren lunges sometimes, and I'm not sure exactly why he does it, but I don't know if I would. If you put a gun to my head, I probably wouldn't take either of them over the other one if they had blocked each other 10 times. But so maybe I'll say that. Maybe I'll just say that's more even than I think you let it on to believe. How about that?
No, I mean, I'm not saying that he's the next Gronk here as far as blocks.
It sure sounds like it, Shawn.
I just said I think he's the best blocker so far. But look, is he Brenton Strange? No. But I would also remind everybody, it took Brenton Strange a while to become a good blocker. Like, that didn't really come on until probably this past year. Because I remember talking about blocking being a concern with the tight ends in last offseason. So that's something that guys generally learn. Because a lot of tight ends, and look, Warren was a high school quarterback. Like, a lot of tight ends, they're just high school receivers. So they don't really block at all. So it takes a while to just learn how to do it. And, you mentioned lunging, and, Cory does the film breakdown, so he sees Tyler Warren a lot. Yeah, I mean, that's something that could be taught. That's something that that's a bad habit that you could potentially break. Generally, you're not going to do it during the course of the season, but hopefully in this offseason, he's able to do it.
Yeah. Brenton Strange really improved his blocking. I think that was just really cool. We don't maybe talk about that enough, just how cool it was for Brenton Strange to get to that level. I mean, I think someone we retweeted, I don't know who it was. I think it might have been Todd McShay, actually, said that he has Brenton Strange as a day 2 guy. no matter what. And he was not a day 2 guy going into the season last year. So it's really cool when a guy who didn't even have that much, I guess, straight up production as far as catching and touchdowns go. He had a fair share of touchdowns, but nothing compared to the dude Brock Bowers down in Georgia or anything like that. And yet he was able to be consistent and shown the ability to block. And that's going to be really cool when Brenton Strange gets drafted, because that's a guy who maybe didn't have NFL draft athleticism or whatever right when he got here, right? He wasn't a Micah Parsons equivalent to tight end. He wasn't even a Pat Freiermuth, right? And he was able to get to that. That's always cool to see. So, and I think, honestly, he wasn't even to Theo Johnson's level coming in, right? I mean, Theo Johnson was a 5-star tight end coming in.
Yeah,
so,
Theo was highly recruited guy. Yeah.
So yeah, that's just cool to see. You go to tight ends?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that Brenton Strange was seen talking with Mike McDaniel, so might be coming down to Miami. Who knows?
That's true. Yeah, I know you were giddy about that. He spoke to Juice Scruggs too, I think, didn't he?
I did see that. Yeah, they were listening to music together.
Please, we should have wrong answers only. What were they listening to together?
No idea, but I think
Hardcore Penn State Football podcast?
I mean, hey, McDaniel, I guess, wanted to see what he was listening to. So pretty cool moment. And Juice is not a guy, is a guy that I would not mind at all drafting in day 3. I think Juice could play.
Yeah, I think he's a guy you want in the locker room too.
Yeah. Yep. I've always been a Juice Scruggs guy.
Let's go offensive line. You want to start with outside and work our way in, or do you want to start from the inside and work our way out?
Let's do outside, work our way in.
All right, well, let's start with Olu Fashanu. How about that?
He's okay.
Yeah, not a bad guy. Look, he's been playing, so I think his health is there, which is really good to see. He's said he's been trying to work on being a more vocal leader, which is really good to see. They're selling his jersey across town, which is also really good to see. When you're an offensive lineman and people know who you are, it's either a really good thing or a really bad thing. I think, Shawn, you've said that many times before. It's a really good thing, and Olu Fashanu, I'm curious to see how he improves his game from last year. I think staying healthy is going to be a big part of that. But, yeah, I don't even have anything to say. I mean, I don't want to waste my time because you guys know who Olu Fashanu is, and he's going to be the starter at left tackle.
You could fill that in with Sharpie. And the biggest challenge for him is just staying healthy, because he was hurt in 2021, and then he got hurt in 2022. So the biggest thing for Penn State and for himself as a draft prospect is just being able to stay healthy, playing a full 13, maybe 14, maybe 15 game season. And if he could do that, it's going to help us out greatly, and it's going to help him out. I see no reason why he can't be an All-American. I think he's the best offensive tackle in college football coming into the season. So expect a big year from him.
Yeah. Yep. Behind him, Javen Williams, the true freshman, been getting some serious reps there. Athletically, I think he's a gift. I think he's got to work a little bit on some of the fundamentals, but the moment he stepped on campus, we've been hearing really good things from there. Otherwise, I don't know who Franklin specifically says, trying to figure out who that fourth offensive tackle is. Is it Javen Williams? Is it Jimmy Chris? I mean, who else is over there? That
Burkmeyer,
the freshman Alex Burkmeyer. You could move Landon Tangwall back out from left guard to left tackle.
And you can move Shelton over if you want.
And you can move Shelton over if you need it, as far as injuries. But if you're trying to have a true number 2 across the board, you don't have that yet. I don't really know. Again, Penn State kind of in the riches now, rags to riches in this, because they usually didn't have 2 offensive tackles they felt good about. Let's go to right tackle. This, to me, Shawn, you and I were on the same page here when we heard James Franklin talk about this. This was pretty evidently clear that Caden Wallace has the job as of right now at right tackle. They moved Drew Shelton from left tackle to right tackle. Drew Shelton's battling through learning the steps and the footwork from moving the left tackle to right tackle, and it has not been a seamless transition yet. he's struggled a little bit. Franklin said, hey, I'd rather you struggle now in the spring than it be in the fall. So he's going to let him work through some of those kinks. But that tells me that Caden Wallace is currently your starter at right tackle. Some people might say, I'm actually a big Caden Wallace fan. I think Caden Wallace showed up when he needed to and actually played pretty well in most of the games last year. But so we'll have to watch that battle. But I think Caden Wallace, it's his to lose as of right now, as of March 29th. But we'll have to keep an eye out there. But that, again, Drew Shelton, again, was just a true freshman last year, played remarkably well. The sky is a ceiling for that guy. He's a stud. He's a smart guy as well. I was going to also say, and yeah, I want to say it now because it kind of ties in Olu Fashanu, but it ties in all of these guys. Olu Fashanu learned from Juice Scruggs as far as some of their pre-workout routines. I think Audrey Snyder had the story in The Athletic, and it was basically like the 2 hours before the practice starts, he's stretching, he's warming up certain things. Juice Scruggs used to do that. I'm guessing probably because of his injuries sustained in a car accident, maybe that he had to do extra working out and warming up. Olu Fashanu started doing it, and now already I believe Drew Shelton is doing it, and I think some of the other younger guys are doing it as well. So as you can, Vega Ione, I think, was on that list too. So you can see that there's starting to become a culture there at the offensive line and that's really cool to see. That's something we had never really seen before. So thoughts on right tackle, Shawn?
Yeah. I think I share a lot of Corey's thoughts on right tackle. I thought Wallace altogether had a pretty good season last year. Right tackle was, I think, my biggest concern going into last season. And this season, I feel pretty good about it because I think we have two good options. I think Wallace is, he's the incumbent, but I think he's going to be able to hold Shelton off. Maybe they get into a rotation like we saw with Bryce Effner and Caden Wallace last year. But based on what Franklin has said, Shelton's still adjusting a little bit to right tackle. And I think I heard a professional football player say once, what's the difference between playing right tackle and left tackle? And they said it's like if you wipe your butt with your right hand and you start wiping your butt with your left hand. And it's just changing, it's the same thing, and you're doing the same thing, but it's just all backwards. So for a young guy like Drew Shelton, it's going to be a bit of a learning curve. And I do think by summer he's going to be ready to do it. But it's going to take some time. And Caden Wallace is a guy who's played a lot of football for us. He's been through every up and down that you could imagine. And I think he's going to be the starter on day one. And I would expect him to keep that role going into the season. But, like Corey said, a guy that you keep coming back to is Jimmy Christ. Like, if you want to say a make or break guy, like, he's got to make some kind of move this year. So being that fourth offensive tackle, I think, would be a pretty nice goal for him.
Yeah. Let's go to left guard. Landon Tangwa. Healthy again. He got hurt before the Michigan game even started, which kind of just set up the whole day being crap. So, but he's been practicing, so that's very good to see. Behind him, I'm assuming it's probably going to be JB Nelson. Shaking your head. Okay, good. Glad we're kind of in agreement there. I'm just going to couple this right into the right guard too, because why not? Because these guys could move around, I think, a little bit more. Right guard, I got Sal Wormley and then Vega Ione. I think that battle is closer than the experts think. That no one's talking about the right guard battle, but I think Vega Ione at 365 pounds, which Franklin says it's the best 365 pounds he's ever seen. I love that comment. Vega Ione in his limited time showed some really good things. I've been a little bit of a critic of Sal Wormley. I thought the Utah game he played really well, to be fair. But the Ohio State game wasn't his best. And again, that was against Ohio State. Nobody really had a good day on the offensive line against Ohio State. But I thought there were some times where Sal Wormley did some really good things. The Ohio game is a good example where he pulled really well, and he got out and he sprung Nick Singleton for some big gains. The Auburn game, another really good game for him. But I thought there was some times where he just kind of got stuck in the mud a little bit, or he got beat. So I'll be curious to see if Vega can push him there. But I'm a big Sal Wormley fan. He battled some injury too, so it's nice to see him. I mean, yeah, I'll wait till we finish this whole conversation to talk about them as a whole. But I mean, you got to feel pretty good about the guard spots. I mean, you got a lot of experience coming back, Shawn.
Yeah, I think it's a tad thin because I do like those top 4 guys, but then after that, like if one of them get hurt, I mean, your rotation becomes a little limited. You're probably going to be looking to move some guys inside. But yeah, Tangwall being back and healthy is huge. I believe he's the best guy out of that group. He's athletically gifted, and I think Landon Tangwall is going to be playing football for a long time. Sal Wormley, the dynamic between him and Vega is interesting because Vega Ione, if you're 365 pounds, especially if you're playing inside, nobody's going to be able to get past you to sack the quarterback because you're just a massive human being, and it's going to just be very hard for people to get by you. On the other hand, it's going to be a challenge for you to be able to do a lot of the things Sal Wormley does, because Sal Wormley's, a good athlete for being an offensive guard. He could get out and pull. Could Vega Ione do that? Maybe he could, but we've only seen him in limited action, and a guy his size, that typically is what they struggle with. Being able to go out, spring your running back for a long run. So maybe he might be very good on his feet, and if he is, that's going to be a huge benefit for us. And then JB Nelson. I liked what I saw from him last year. I remember being at the Central Michigan game, and I was like, who is this guy? Because for whatever reason, his number wasn't in the program. And I just kind of zeroed in on him. I think it's when Wormley got hurt. And I liked what I saw. So small sample size from what I saw from him, but I generally liked it. And Anthony Donka is there. So be curious to see how he pans out at guard. I doubt he plays this year, but I did like his size coming in. So, but
yeah, I'm a Donka believer.
Yeah, I liked him a lot in high school, coming out of high school, but I do think he probably redshirts this season.
Yeah, just so much depth. I mean, it's going to be hard we talked about this before, but for Burkmeyer, Williams, and Donka, like it's going to be hard for any of those three to not redshirt. You can still play 4 games in redshirt unless injuries happen. I mean, this is the most depth Penn State's ever had along the offensive line in some time, where they feel really good about it. So let's go to center. Hunter Norzad likely moving, or has moved over from guard to center in his final year. Likely will be the starter. Nick Dawkins will be the backup there, fighting him hard. Dawkins was hurt for a little bit, so this is his real. Dawkins actually had a pretty good spring game last year, so I think we gave him some praise last year for that. Which, God, it feels like yesterday we were giving praise for Nick Dawkins, and we'll talk defense in a second, but it's crazy how it's almost been a year ago. And Vega Ione has also taken some snaps at center too. So just keep that in mind there. I mentioned this before, but Hunter Norzad, I want to see some vocality from him. I want to see him step up and be a little bit of a leader. Juice Scruggs, I think that, talk about positions on offense. Losing Juice Scruggs is probably the biggest one, you could argue. Just forget about Sean Clifford for a second. I mean, Juice Scruggs more or less important than Parker Washington. I'd probably take Juice Scruggs. Juice Scruggs more or less important than Mitch Tinsley. Probably take Juice Scruggs. Juice Scruggs more important than Brenton Strange. Probably take Juice Scruggs. So anyway, just a random thought there, Shawn.
Yeah, Norzad seems to be the favorite to be the center. And yeah, I have, could he be that leader? Because you kind of need the center to be the second leader of your offense, ideally. Nick Dawkins, yeah, I mean, the thing with him is we just haven't seen a lot of him. Like, yeah, we saw him in the Blue White game, but like in game action, we just haven't seen a lot. And yeah, Vega is another guy that has taken snaps at center. So I kind of think he ends up at guard. But it's encouraging to see that they feel like they have three guys capable of playing center. Vega's a center. I mean, man, that is, imagine a quarterback sneak in that sneario. Like,
talk about anchoring the offensive line.
Ooh, like you have Drew Aller, who's a massive human being in his own right, coming, is sneaking the ball behind Vega Ione.
I don't really know if that's a sneak at that point.
Yeah, that's just, I don't even know what it is, but it's just overpowering.
The plunge.
Yeah, that is a lot of human coming at you.
Yeah. I don't even know, honestly, that would work. I think it might get jammed up. I don't know. You might need some Drano. Yeah, I don't know. That's a lot of mass trying to get through there at one time. Just in general, the offensive line to me is in such a better place. Ain't a lot of credit deserves to go to Phil Trotwine. I almost couldn't remember his name for a second there. I mean, they're recruiting at a level they've never recruited at along the offensive line, and that continues to happen. Cooper Cousins, et cetera, coming in this next class as well. I mean, they're doing some really solid things. So, anyway, offense is done. Shawn, overall thoughts as the offense as we kind of head into the spring. How are you just feeling?
Good. But there is some uncertainty there, and a lot of that uncertainty comes in the passing game. And while I think Drew Aller, he on paper he looks apart, things look fine right now, nothing to complain about. You just don't know until the ball is snapped, and I think he's going to be good. I really do. But questions about him, and then there's questions about the receivers. Feels so weird to say I feel good about the offensive line, but I feel good about the offensive line. And I think we're going to have one of the best run games. We could have one of the best run games in the country. So, yeah, overall, I feel good about it.
I think that's, to me, that's the biggest thing about this Penn State offense as we head into the spring here. Everyone's talking about Drew Aller. Not enough attention is going to the amount of experience that we just mentioned along the offensive line, the amount of games all those guys have played and also played together, and the two running backs that everyone apparently has just forgotten about. I mean, there is a bunch of experience, proven experience in the run game. I think Penn State easily could be one of the best running teams in the country, and nobody right now is talking about it. So keep an eye on that. Mike Yurcich, we know he wants to throw the ball and have his fun. When they were running the ball, Indiana was a perfect example. Just couldn't be stopped, right? Just literally couldn't be stopped anymore. I think Mike Yurcich proved to us that he's okay to just run the rock. That was a question mark for us at a certain point, right? We were like, will he commit himself to the run? I think he proved that. So I think people are kind of getting this whole season mixed up a little bit. I think Drew Aller is going to have a good year, but until proven otherwise, I'm still thinking Penn State is going to beat people by running the football.
Yep.
Okay.
I certainly agree.
And don't you, it's just not being talked about that much, Like, I just feel like that's not being talked about nearly enough. Like, I get it. 5-star guy, you whatever. I seriously think Penn State could win 10 games with a 3-star guy.
I kind of think nationally the run game is being acknowledged, but among Penn State fans, I feel like we're, maybe not us, but they're focusing more on Aller. And I really think it's just shiny new toy. And they just kind of assume that he's definitely going to be an upgrade over Clifford, and that may well be the case. I happen to think it probably will be the case. But But I'm not counting my chickens before they hatch. I've seen. I've watched a lot of football in my life, and the 5-star quarterback, it doesn't always end well, and there's a lot of things that need to happen. And like I said, I firmly think that Drew Allar's going to be a very good quarterback here. But as Bill Parcells once said about Tony Romo, you have to put the anointing oil away while before he's done anything. So let's just, Penn State fans just need to pump the brakes a little bit on Aller. I understand being a little excited, but just pump the brakes a tad.
There shall be no pumping. You don't even have to pump brakes anymore. Everyone has ABS. You don't have to pump brakes. It doesn't even happen.
Sure.
Anyway. The defense, Shawn.
Yes.
You want to start from the back or you want to start from the front?
Go front.
Okay.
I am salivating.
I'm going to make you go inside out. Let's start a defensive tackle. Maybe
Okay.
one of the bigger
place
questions.
where I'm not salivating as much. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
That I feel okay about.
Shawn, if you had to give me the 2 starters at defensive tackle right now, you had to. Who would you pick as your 2?
Izzard and Beeman.
Yeah.
I mean,
Can I tell you something funny?
Yeah.
I don't have Beeman on my piece of paper.
It happens. It's okay.
I seriously do not know why. I did this when we were talking about defensive tackle maybe a month ago. I don't know why I can't remember him. I do not know why it doesn't. I think he left for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah, like him and Franklin had some. They had some like public beef during the season. It was an interesting time there for about a week.
I feel better about the defensive tackle now that I remember they have Beeman.
Oh yeah, because without Beeman, I mean, you get stemmed pretty quick.
I like their 1s and 2s. I'm gonna be honest with you. I feel comfortable with their 1 and 2s. I'm not saying they're national championship worthy with their 1 and 2s, but I think they do enough with their 1 and 2s where I'm feeling pretty good. You got Beeman, you got Izzard, who was a little banged up. Devon Ellies, I think, needs to take that final step. I think he's good. I don't think he's anything amazing yet. He's not a PJ Mustafer. He's not a Jordan Hill. He hasn't got to that level of household names people remember in defensive tackle lore. And then Zane Durant, I think, is really chunked up and looks pretty good. Played a lot as a freshman last year. Got to feel good about those guys. The next 2 guys, go ahead. I'm going to say the next 2 guys I think you're about to say. That makes me feel better about this. Devon Townley, who moved inside. He went from outside, he went to portal, he then went inside. It's like your punishment for going to the portal is you get to go play defensive tackle instead of defensive end. I don't know. But he's beefed up. And a guy that I don't think enough people are talking about. And I don't always go to the high voice all the time. But when I go to the high voice, there's a reason for it. And that's Caleb Artis. He's over 300 pounds. And Shawn, we like a little bit of beef around here. And I think that's a guy you got to pay attention to for the spring game. And just kind of, you're probably not going to hear his name called because it's a defensive tackle in the spring game. Probably isn't going to be making a bunch of plays, but he'll probably be making some plays. You don't realize he's making some plays. So, have fun at the spring game. Watch the spring game a second time on BTN. Maybe I'll get some of the highlights. We can put some of the highlights on here maybe because we didn't have the YouTube show last year. So maybe I can show some of those. We can do a little film breakdown. Yeah, that'd be fun. Just thought of that right now. But anyway, I feel better about, is it Artis? Is that how you say it?
I think you're right. Yeah, I think it's Caleb Artis.
I feel better about Artis and Townley. And again, those guys are only guys that have to give you about 10 to 20 snaps each. You can get 10 to 20 snaps out of those guys, you're feeling pretty solid. So there. Done.
Very good. All right. So, yeah, Izzard, he was very steady last year. I think he might have been the most consistent player on the team. Because even I remember going
the whole team.
Yeah, I said it. So I remember watching the Michigan game last year, where everybody played bad.
Over Sean Clifford? I'm sorry. How does that say?
Yes. I remember watching the Michigan game last year. Everybody played bad. Really, nobody had a good day that day. And then Keziah Izzard made some plays. And he did some good things. Like, he might have been the one guy who actually probably brought it every game. Now, to be fair, I did think he was suspended the first couple of games. But after he came back from suspension, I really don't remember a bad game he played. So he was Mr. Steady. Now, the question with him is, how is he going to be without PJ Mustipher? And that's probably the question of this group as a whole, is how are they going to be without their leader and the guy with the beef? Beeman had a very good end. I thought he played very good down the stretch. I really liked what I saw from him as the year went on. Little concerned about him against better competition, just because his size just isn't. I'd like to see him 20 pounds heavier. Speaking of being about 20 pounds heavier than Hakeem Beam and Zane Durant, I like that he put on some weight. The question is he still going to have that speed that he had that really stuck out to people last spring and into this fall? And he kind of displayed it a bit in the fall. Devon Ellies is back. Maybe he fills in that PJ role. And then I have Caleb Artis. I have one word to describe him. Beefy. He is the beef. So hopefully he's ready to play. He's a guy that we haven't really talked a whole lot about, because last year was a redshirt year. It's very rare for a defensive tackle not to get redshirted. So it's just his name didn't come up a whole lot. But he's going to be pushing for time. And Corey mentioned Townley and another guy, Jordan Vandenberg.
How did we not mention him already? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, like that big South African. I generally liked what I saw from him. Bit of a grinder. I think he'd be one of Gruden's grinders. Cold there too. But yeah, I've generally liked what I saw. So I think if, generally you want 4 or 5 guys at defensive tackle that you trust. I think you could have 4 or 5 guys here. I think you could have Izzard, Beeman, Durant, Ellies, and then one of Vandenberg, Townley, or Artis.
Yeah. No, I agree with you.
I think that's the goal.
I'm getting a little bit of a wide receiver vibe with the defensive tackle room. Like, a lot of bodies, just kind of need some people to really step up and kind of finish the deal. Oh, you got a little double chug of the Dr. Pepper there. One sip wasn't enough. Had to go for the second one.
Got to lubricate the vocal cords, Corey.
I bet. Of course. But you ready to go defensive end?
Let's do it.
I don't think
this is where I start salivating.
I bet. You got to pencil in 2 starters right now. You got Chop Robinson and Adisa Isaac.
Yep.
So Adisa Isaac, we've said this before, but I think this might have been back in January. Adisa Isaac last year spent most of last year rehabbing, getting healthy again. He is now going to have a year of development now that he's healthy, that he probably missed last year. And to me, that's huge. I think Adisa Isaac could be lethal next year. Very excited. Obviously, he's a personal favorite of mine. I'm very excited for Adisa Isaac, and Shawn, I know you're very excited about Chop Robinson.
Yeah. I mean, Chop could be an All-American. I said the one thing that I would like to see him improve is just get to the quarterback a hair sooner, just a hair. because it felt like he led the country in almost sacks. So if he could just get there just a little bit sooner, I mean, he's going to have double-digit sacks this year. I think that highly of him. And yeah, Disa Isaac, it felt like he needed a month to get his sea legs under him. But as soon as he did, he had an awesome end of the season. And he played well in the Rose Bowl, too. And this year is big year potential for him. I think he could really help his draft stock. I thought it was smart for him to come back for another year. I said it after the Rose Bowl. I would like to see Adisa come back, and I thought it could help his stock, and I'm happy he did. And speaking of potential, I mean, Dennis Sutton. He's going to be pushed. If there's one guy to push those two starters, I think it's going to be Dennis Sutton. You know, the one thing you heard about with him since high school is how hard he works. And he had to get himself into shape before he came here last summer, because he didn't come in the winter. And he was ready. And for a 17, 18-year-old to do that, to get into shape by himself, it speaks so highly of him. And you combine that with his potential. I mean, sky's the limit for him with his athletic ability, with his work ethic. And if there's one guy to push one of those starters, it's going to be him. So to have three defensive ends that you really feel like could start, big time luxury for you.
Yeah. Also, when it's a third down and long situation, wouldn't be surprised if you see him move inside to rush the passer.
Absolutely. Yep.
I just want to say with Zane Durant real quick, just had to throw the Kevin Givens reference out there one more time because I love doing it. But no, I'm curious, Shawn, number 4 guy. You got one of my personal favorites in Amin Vanover, because he reminds me of CJ Alalian, Smith Vilbert, and then Zariah Fisher as well is in that running too. I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody.
Yeah, that's what I have too.
I just don't know who that 4th guy is, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I mean, Vilbert, he missed all last year. I think he was in the doghouse, and then they ended up just redshirting him. I think that might have been what happened. And then, but yeah, I mean, I feel like we're going to talk about that Arkansas game till he plays, and that Arkansas game feels like it was 600 years ago, but it did happen. He had 3 sacks in one game. So obviously that's something to build off of. And Zariah Fisher, a big question is, how's he going to be off of injury? And then Amin Vanover. I think no matter what happens, Amin Vanover is going to find a way to get on the field, because you could always use a hustle guy. You could always use a guy that
just was going to say hustle guy. Going to say hustle guy.
You could always use a guy like him. And speaking of grinders, like Amin Vanover is a grinder. Like he is
a grinder.
He is a grinder. Yeah, like he's gonna get after it. He's got that motor that really doesn't stop, and 100% effort. So
first guy in, last guy out kind of guy.
I know. Yeah, he. Yeah. That's what I'm going to stick with here. There's always going to be a spot for him to play, and he's a glue guy. So it's another one.
He basically forced that one safety. Was that the Ohio game or Central Michigan?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Yeah, it was one of those early ones. And he was just making plays like that all year, just around the football. I can't say enough good things about Amin Vanover. So
yeah, I'm rooting for him.
He's that 4th guy.
Yep, me too. And it was fun doing his film because he was always doing stuff. So, they 2023 class. Tamir Robinson is kind of more of a linebacker from right now, so we're not going to include him in defensive ends. The one guy It's from Philly. Why can't I think of his name? Is it from Philly?
Yes.
The one true defensive end in this class. Although Kavion Keys might play some defensive end.
Yes, he's not here yet, but
No, he's not there yet. I guess I could go back in my notes too, but you'll probably find it faster than me.
Give me a Lions.
Yes, thank you. I got to it as soon as. Yep.
And Joseph Mopoye. They'll both
Yep.
be here. Now, Mopoye, I don't expect to play next year. I think he's probably a redshirt guy, but Lions could potentially find the field.
Yeah, that's kind of how I'm thinking too. And Mason Robinson as well.
Yeah, Mason Robinson too.
So we'll see. I think Lyons is a guy who could potentially see 4 games, contribute a little bit here and there. Robinson, maybe. Mopoye definitely needs to just work on his technique and get some things squared away there. You ready? You have any final thoughts before you go to linebacker?
Yeah, let's do the linebackers.
I didn't separate mine by position. I don't know if you did.
No, I didn't either.
Good. Excellent. I've got roughly Abdul Carter, Curtis Jacobs, Kobe King / Tyler Elsdon as of right now.
That seems to be the consensus.
Manny Diaz did say that Kobe King is being a little bit more vocal, picking up his signals and stuff a little bit quicker than he was previously. So take that for what you will.
Do you think they should consider moving Abdul Carter inside?
He's at 249 pounds. You put him at the mic. The issues
My father and I had like a 15-minute discussion the other night about this.
I thought about this literally the other day too, but my question is, maybe I even tweeted about, I don't know. My reason why you don't do that is because when you leave him at the will, you let him be free to make plays across the field, and you put him at the mic that slows him down a little bit. And so I would say leave him at will, let him make as many plays for you as possible, and go from there. I think you got to put Curtis Jacobs at Sam. And then we got to figure out the mic. I think King or Elsdon, you got to figure it out there. Tamir Robinson's going to be playing in the middle as well. I guess the backup behind Curtis Jacobs is your boy.
Andaluca, yeah.
And then I have Keon Wiley behind Abdul Carter as of right now.
Yeah, and I could see Wiley maybe moving inside too. But yeah, that's for Abdul Carter. I just have Beast right next to him. No other way to describe him. I mean, he's unbelievable. Jacobs, yeah. I mean, I think he came on toward the end of the year. To be fair to him, he was good all year. But I thought he played his best football down the stretch. The middle linebacker, I agree with you. I wouldn't move Abdul Carter inside. I don't think James Franklin plans to. So Elsdon and King, those are probably the 2 guys there. I mean, middle linebacker, we've talked about it ad nauseum. They got to be better. That's all there is to it. Tamir Robinson, interesting that he's moving inside. I think it makes some sense. He's a pretty versatile player. Always was. I feel like he could handle the mic. I feel like he has the potential to handle the mic. And then my favorite player from this recruiting class, Tony Rojas. He's gotten bigger. I saw a picture of him yesterday. He definitely looks bigger, and that's really the only concern with him coming into this season. And the only question mark, if he will play a lot, is his size. And if he could add enough playing weight, yeah, I expect him to burn his red shirt. And that's really saying something, considering the linebacking core, considering he's not going to be a guy that you're going to put at the mic. But I think he's too good to leave off the field. Luca earned his red shirt, earned a scholarship this past season. Definitely didn't have that just handed to him. He had to go and earn it. Also, if you're in the Scranton area, go to Garrity's, get a sauce. It's an NIL deal. Big question for him, though, is could he handle more on his plate? And I think that remains to be seen. Like, God forbid if there's an injury in front of him, could he handle being a starter? And I'm not sure if he could, but perhaps he could. He's done nothing but surprise everybody so far, so there's some potential there. Keon Wiley, again, possibly maybe a guy you could put inside. And then Tyrese Mills. I had heard that he had went to the linebacker, played some linebacker last year before he got injured in the offseason, going into the previous season. But then online it has him listed as a safety, so I don't really know what the story is with Tyrese Mills. But supposedly he had been working at the SAM, so he might be another guy that you see at linebacker this season.
Forgot about that one. Yeah, no, I think you covered that well. I'm good if you're good.
Yep.
Manny Diaz did say it was funny, and in 1 year it went from a weakness to a potential strength. I thought that was funny that he realized that. But
Absolutely.
true. So yeah, Curtis Jacobs and Abdul Carter have opportunity to really be special, and so it's exciting to see if they can kind of put it all together. And then if someone can just be just above average at middle linebacker, Penn State's looking pretty good there. So, and then again, it'd be interesting when you have so many corners and safeties that we're about to get into. When you go to a nickel, who do you take off? When you go to a dime, who do you take off? Because now you have a lot of flexibility. I will say in the Ohio State game, the times Ohio State started having those big plays when Abdul Carter was not on the field. So just keep that in mind as we move along here. Let's go with safety next.
Okay.
Franklin said there's 4 guys that have kind of separated themselves. Zakee Wheatley, we're assuming. Keaton Ellis, we're assuming. Jalen Reed, we're assuming. And we're assuming probably Kevin Winston Jr. are the 4 guys. There's a little bit of a move from you, Shawn. I think Kevin.
Reed?
Who would the other 4th guy be? Did I just say Jalen Reed?
So who would name your 4 again?
Wheatley, Ellis, Reed, Winston Jr.
Okay, yeah, I'm cool with that.
I'm gonna fight you. No, I think Kevin Winston
Watch
Jr.
Mekhi Flowers, though.
Yes. I was gonna get to him. Yeah, I think Mekhi Flowers is gonna be fun. I don't know if it's gonna be this year, but I think he's gonna be fun. Kevin Winston Jr. is probably gonna be a name that splatters. I think Kevin Winston Jr. could have a big spring game, to be honest with you. But I think by this time next year, people are going to very much know who Kevin Winston Jr. is. I think that's a done deal. I'd be surprised if that's not the case. Very excited for Keaton Ellis and Zakee Wheatley. 2 guys have worked really hard, been around the program for a good amount of bit. Wheatley stuck with the system, moved from corner to safety. Just excited to see and Keaton Ellis has been a backup, but a guy who's played a bunch of football from the get-go, also moved from corner to safety, which I always say is good to move corners from safeties because they have the ball skills to be able to play pass defense, and also can do some man coverage. And Jalen Reed, I think Jalen Reed and Trey Wallace to me are very similar. And in fact, like you and I were kind of high on them, and they had good years, but didn't have necessarily crazy amazing years. So I think in a way, Jalen Reed, I think he could impress people as well. I agree with Franklin. I think those are your 4 like really top guys, and then you got guys below them that are going to continue to kind of work their way up. Mekhi Flowers from Harrisburg, someone definitely to keep an eye on.
Yep, Mekhi Flowers, the king of Old Forge. Valley people know what I'm talking about. Keaton Ellis, lots of experience. I mean, he has moved around a lot. He's been I believe he was a corner when he first came in. Thought he had a good year last year. Kevin Winston, yeah, I agree with you. Really a guy that I liked a lot out of high school. Thought he was a little tad under the radar, a little forgotten about, but Delay the Wood. Like to see what his ball skills are like. And Zakee Wheatley, I mean, nose for the football. That's the first thing you think of when you think of Zakee Wheatley. Maybe become a little more consistent. But if he could, he's a guy that you kind of can't keep off the field because he just wreaks havoc for opposing offenses. And Jalen Reed, I mean, maybe a Marcus Allen like type guy. Definitely loves to move into the box. And I agree with you. I think he had a good year last year, but not a great year. I was probably expecting a tad more from him, but I thought he was altogether he had a pretty good year. And the big question is who's that other safety? I think you have Keaton Ellis kind of penciled in as the one. Maybe I think ideally you would like Zakee Wheatley, just because he's going to be the guy that kind of fills in in that Tig Brown role to be able to force turnovers, which we're going to be missing in this year's defense. If there's one thing that I could say that has me a little worried about this defense is who replaces Tig Brown. And I mean, obviously PJ too, but in that back end, like, I don't know who replaces him. And that scares me a tad, but hopefully in the aggregate we could get that figured out.
From a turnover perspective, I think I'm very concerned, right? Because Jair Brown, I think it was like 16 turnovers he forced in his 2 years. That's just a stupid amount of turnovers. I mean, that's just crazy. And so, yeah, that is, I think Zakee Wheatley has to be the guy that steps up and does it. I mean, he's the turnover king every single chance he gets. Well, he's the turnover king last spring and a turnover king in the summer camp, right? So he's going for a three-peat for the spring, which I haven't heard anything about the turnover king so far. So we'll see if they announce that.
He had an amazing interception over the weekend that we tweeted out.
I saw that video. Yeah, I don't know how he caught, and that's the kind of stuff he's able to do.
Yeah.
He'll get some turnovers. Had the one, two big ones, one against Purdue and one against Auburn. So he's already flashed a little bit of it. So I think he's going to be the guy to kind of carry that turnover torch, because Brisker had his fair share, Brown had his fair share, and the turnovers has been something that Penn State is not used to getting a lot of recently, especially from the secondary. So this has been a nice change of pace between Brown absolutely dominating with interceptions.
It's a side thought. It's a tragedy that the 2021 team had Jair Brown and Brisker, and they were stuck on a 2021 team. Just a side note.
Yeah, it is. You mentioned replacing Briggs, Tig Brown, the prowler position. When they go to that third down where they have one guy down, no guys down, Manny Diaz was asked about that, and they said they've been trying a lot of different people, and a lot of people want to have that position and be that guy because it's a lot of fun, because you get to float around. It's like a Troy Polamalu-ish. And Johnny Dixon is a guy, not necessarily a safety, but it's been Johnny Dixon, who had a couple sacks from the corners position, has kind of been that guy to show that versatility, which is a good transition to the corner room. Kalen King is getting a lot of love. Absolutely deserves it. Had a really good year last year. In some ways, statistically, actually did better than Joey Porter Jr. He's going to be probably a first-team All-American preseason guy. He's going to be a first-team Big Ten guy, preseason guy. And he deserves all of that credit and love. I think he passed the test last year. A lot of people try to go after him instead of Joey Porter Jr., and they realized that wasn't a great option either. However, their third option wasn't that much better either in Johnny Dixon. And Johnny Dixon I think might even be a better run supporter than Kalen King. And I think also has tremendous ball skills. And it really is another guy who just showed the ability to develop. When he first got here from South Carolina, didn't really make any noise. And yeah, all of a sudden a year goes by and now I just feel like he's grown with so much confidence. I love the Kalen King hype, but I really like the Johnny Dixon hype. The guy has a lot of confidence right now. He's going to be able to have the safety support. I think it's going to be a fun year for Johnny. He's going to have a lot of volume, right? He's going to sink or swim. And I think this Manny Diaz offense is perfect, or defense, excuse me, is perfect for Johnny Dixon because it lets him blitz every once in a while, lets him be a part of the tackling as well as taking chances to get some turnover. So I'm a huge Johnny Dixon guy. Sean's got some technical difficulties. Are you back?
I'm here. I'm here. Yeah. All right. So, yeah, I agree with with what you said about Kalen King. I mean, what's there not to say about him? I think it's also the kind of the magic of the Rose Bowl with a lot of this hype because we were watching Kalen King all year. We kept being like, this guy's like as good as Joey Porter Jr. I mean, so me and Corey have been leading the way on it, but then he had the interception in the Rose Bowl, and a bunch of people who weren't paying attention to him were like, who's this guy? And then they do the research, and they're like, oh, yeah, he's really good. And, for Johnny Dixon, I actually have written down Prowler ? Because I think he was asked about it, and he's definitely in competition for that Prowler role. Speaking of being in competition, he's also in a competition with Storm Duck right now to be that corner opposite Kalen King. And he might have a shot at it. I really like what our dime package with the corners is going to look like. Having him, having Dixon, King, Duck, and probably a Daquan Hardy on the field. I mean, I think that's pretty formidable. Guy that I think could push to play early is Elliot Washington. Since we were recruiting him, he really stuck out to me as a guy that could probably play the nickel at a pretty high level. Not sure if he'll be ready to do it yet, but I think he's going to get some early time. And Cam Miller is a guy that the coaches really like. Got some early time last year when he played. He wasn't great, but he's a freshman corner. People say it's the hardest position outside of quarterback to learn, and I sort of believe that. And there's going to be a bit of a baptism by fire, and Cam Miller experienced that a little bit last year. I do expect Zion Tracy and Lamont Payne to redshirt, so I don't think we'll be seeing them a whole lot this year. But yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about this corner, these corners. And God, I feel pretty good about this whole defense, to be completely honest with you.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that. I mean, just the cornerbacks. You lose what's going to be the first ever Penn State corner to get drafted in the first round, defensive back to get drafted in the first. And you can honestly argue they have more depth coming in for next year. I mean, how often does that happen, Sean?
Not here. At other schools, it does. And those schools tend to be the elite schools. So it's a pretty good sign. If, you're losing a guy who is going to be the first corner ever selected in the first round at Penn State, and you still feel pretty awesome about what you have coming in. And it's also a credit to Franklin going out and getting Storm Duck. And that's very much a Penn State portal move to, we don't live off the portal, but we do use the portal to fill in spots. And Storm Duck definitely fits that bill.
Yeah. What are your thoughts overall about the defense, Sean?
I love it. Yeah, very good. I said the offense looks good. This could be a great defense. And I think it has the potential to be better than last year. Are there things I'm worried about? Sure. Sure. I think every defense is worried about something. I think every team is worried about something on their defense. But there's just so much depth, and there's so many things to feel good about that I think it's going to help make up for it. And then, like you said, when we broke down the defensive tackles, you felt better about it. And defensive tackle is obviously an area that I worry about, but middle linebacker is still my biggest worry. And if King or Elston ideally could separate themselves, could separate from one another, and really take charge of the middle of the field, then I think this has a chance to be maybe an all-time great Penn State defense, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, defensive tackle and Mike linebacker is going to be the difference to me from being a really good defense and being the next step. So we'll see. Shawn, I mean, that was the spring preview. We actually didn't take that long to get through it. We're going to be hitting, the spring season. Spring football ends here on April 15th, so we got about 15 days left. I was going to go to Twitter. Forgot I was going to do that. I asked Twitter for people, non-starters on offense and defense, who you should know about. And this was some answers. I'm just going to read them out for you. Blake Bocello says Caden Saunders and Cam Miller. Grant Lachat, long-time listener, Grant Lachat, says Omari Evans and Devon Townley. Donnie Hartman says Tyler Johnson and KJ Winston. Mike Vales, longtime listener. Liam Clifford and Mekhi Flowers. Bill DeFilippo, still can't say that name 100% right. Friend of the pod, says Caden Saunders and Zariah Fisher. And Joey House did not give us a defensive guy, but did say wide receiver Anthony Ivy. So a lot of names there. I mean, I'm going to give them credit. Those are all really good names that a lot of people probably don't know of outside of people that are listening to Penn State football. Hardcore Penn State football listeners that listened to the show on March 29th.
Yeah. I mean, I like a lot of those names. A lot of those names we emphasized. I talked pretty extensively about Omari Evans. We talked about the grinder that is Liam Clifford, the future Adam Thielen of the team. And Mekhi Flowers is another guy we talked about that just isn't getting a whole lot of love right now. Might be buried a little bit in the depth chart. Maybe his best is yet to come, maybe in 2024 rather than 2023. But yeah, do I think he could be a good contributor for the team this year? I do. So yeah, I like it. I like the team we got. I think we're going to be a pretty damn good team this year.
How are you handling the hype?
Well, I mean, it's not the first time we've had a team with high expectations. I'm just trying to be as level-headed as possible. And, at the same time, I'm not going to tell you that, I don't know, we'll see. No, I think we're going to be pretty good. I think we're going to be a pretty damn good team. And that means 10-plus wins. So if we fall short of that, yeah, I'm going to be pretty disappointed.
Would you be disappointed with an 11-2 record and another Rose Bowl win?
No.
Yeah.
But I'd feel like I want more.
I think we may have had this conversation before.
I would feel very 2017 Penn State like.
I think if you as long as you beat a Michigan or an Ohio State next year, and you go 11-2, I think that's okay.
Yeah. I mean,
I think you got to find a way to beat Michigan or Ohio State next year.
And look, I mean, that's the we have higher expectations. Like I think last year we all felt really good by the end of the season because very few people expected us to go 11-2. I mean, we had one guy that covers the team had Penn State going 6-6 last year. So, and myself, I was between 8-4 and 9-3, really up until we made the preview video, and I decided to go with 9-3. And you got to be honest, I didn't feel great about it. But yeah, there are higher expectations, and you just got to live with them, and you have to hope that the team can meet them.
Yeah. Probably the highest expectations James Franklin's had in his tenure. I mean, even 2017, I know they won the Big Ten championship, but I mean, maybe there was. I just think this team has more hype than that, honestly, because I mean, Trace McSorley was obviously a really good quarterback in his time, but I still don't know if people were believing in his hype as much as they're already believing in Drew Aller's hype. You know,
they
what I mean?
weren't. And that 2017 team going into it, it had flaws, like big flaws. Like that offensive line was not a national championship quality offensive line. And we knew that going in. We knew if we were to win the national championship, and I think there might be a world that exists where the 2017 team could have won the national championship. We knew it would be in spite of the offensive line, and it would take Saquon just doing otherworldly things and, Trace really stepping up and really being who he was in 2017. So, we had a shot, but it would have been very difficult because it's just hard. It's hard to win these games against the elite teams without a good to great offensive line. This year we have it. Like I look at this team, and yeah, middle linebacker is a concern, but we have guys at linebacker that could make up for it. We have a defensive line that could make up for it. We have a secondary that's going to be, in my opinion, maybe elite. And then we finally have what we might have, pray to God, maybe an elite quarterback. At least that's what the hype says. So you put all that together, yeah, this is a team that could do some really special things. And there's not, some glaring deficiency on the roster. Like even in 2017, we had a good defense, but remember Ryan Buchholz gets hurt against Ohio State, and then it was like, oh no, like what are we gonna do? Like this year, like God forbid a Deese or Chop get hurt, we just go okay, Smith Vilbert, he's gonna go in. Amin Vanover, Denai Dennis Sutton, like we got guys now that we could reliably feel good about with depth. So not only do we have the starters, we have the depth that can make this team special. So I know I talked for a long time there, but I'm feeling really good about this team. And I'm not going to, you guys know me, I'm not going to BS you. I didn't BS you last year. I told you what I thought. I told you we were going to lose to Auburn. So I've been wrong. I'm not afraid to be a wet blanket. I really feel strongly that this could be a really good team this year.
Yeah, I think you summed it up well. The only thing I'll add to that is I am excited for the offensive line reason. This is the most depth and not just depth, because I feel like that's just a cop-out way. The depth is phenomenal. But you also have a first-round pick and your left tackle protecting your quarterback that you're still not sure about. And you got two running backs you can win with. I mean, even if the wide receivers are just above average, if we get Keandre Lambert-Smith from the Michigan State or the Utah game, I mean, look out. But, I mean, even if he isn't doing that every single game, they can beat everyone else on their schedule with average wide receiver play because they've got an offensive line and two running backs that don't even need a good offensive line. That right there has me the most excited because when the going gets tough, you need to be able to run the rock. You need to be able to 4-minute offense. You need to be able to pick up the third and ones. Penn State can pick up the third and ones. They couldn't do that 2 years ago even. So that's what's got me giddy inside, Sean. it was fun going through it this last couple of days because it kind of makes you realize that you're I don't want to say the itch is 100% back yet, but we're about to hit April here in 2 days, and blue and white will happen. Recruiting will then go full swing, and then it'll be here. I mean, we're literally, we start previewing teams. We'll probably start previewing teams in June, I think is what we did last time. And we'll just run with it. I mean, once June hits, so that's what we got. April, May, we got 2 months away until we're previewing teams for the next season. It's crazy to me.
Yeah, sneaks up on you. And it's a good kind of sneak up on you. It's not like, I don't know. I feel like the season sneaking up on a team like Northwestern is like Michael Myers sneaking up on you. But like, you kind of feel like you have a birthday coming up or something. It's just, you have to hope that nobody poops in the proverbial punch bowl. And a good way to do that is losing to West Virginia.
Yeah.
I do not want to lose to the Fighting Joe Mansions. No way, no how.
Oh, man. That's how people know when you tweet certain things. Dorito Bandit has done a good job. He knows exactly when Shawn. He called that out Shawn tweet the other day. That was so funny.
Yeah, people who really follow us close will know when I tweet, when you tweet.
Yeah. Yep. Anyway, let's get out of here. We'll be back next week with a draft. Which, do we say we're going to do running backs? What do we say we're going to do?
Yeah, we could do running backs next week.
All right. We'll be back with the Penn State draft next week. We have to do running backs. I have a couple ideas for the show for next week, but I don't have anything on paper yet. The one interview, I was thinking maybe we could get that by Wednesday.
Awesome.
But we'll see. Until then, thank you guys so much for listening. We haven't had a 5-star review for a long time. So if you made it this far in the show, drop a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. We'll send you a sticker. I haven't sent a sticker for a minute. So someone write us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. We'll read it on the show, and we'll send you a sticker. I think we're at like 107 right now. Let's try to get to 110. How about that? 110 before blue and white. Can we do that, people? Thank you very much for listening. I'm Corey Listoki. That's Sean Kane. Until next week. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.